5 seconds. Start. We have met here at this spot to carry on some work which we have been doing and which was started at the instance of Sri Dabar when he was Congress President. As you know, he is still in charge of it and is conducting the work of the planning committee. I think it was a very happy idea to have the seminar here because inevitably meeting for a day or two in Delhi, usually with so many other activities, it is difficult to concentrate one's mind continuously for any period. Now we meet here and we shall no doubt discuss various aspects of the problems before us. I hope that progressively we shall deal more with the practical aspects rather than with the theoretical. I do not by any means think that the theoretical approach can be overlooked. It is important that we should have clear ideas, but the fact remains that there is a tendency always for theorizing for being rather idealistic in the things to be said. What is perhaps mere important is the practical thing to be done, and if I may say so, to be done in relatively short and fixed period of time. So far as the distant goal is concerned, I really do not know how the wisest man in the world can put down any distant goal for his country or his people. The world changes rapidly, and in my own lifetime, it has changed tremendously. Almost every word that I heard in my boyhood has changed its context and its meaning today. All the textbooks, economics of the 19th century, good as they might have been, only a historic importance today, because not only the people's thinking was grown but facts have outplaced them. It is good to realize that entirely new forces have been let loose and are at man's disposal, which necessarily make a difference to our thinking. Therefore, any firm fixed approach which does not take into consideration these dynamic changes that are taking place leads us to blind allies. I am not personally so inclined as to make a dogmatic approach to almost any problem. My approach is almost practical apart from certain basic assumptions and basic objectives that one has to strive for. There is more especially so in the present age of tremendous change. Let us now discuss the contents of a socialistic society. It is a very important thing to discuss, yet my mind does not function that way. Broadly, of course, we know that we want a society in which everybody has equal opportunity and everybody can go ahead, raising the standard of living, and where power is not concentrated, and so on and so forth. But the moment you go much farther than that, you try to imprison your system for the future. We do not know what other things we still have and what other forces will be at our disposal, what the world will be, and how our neighbors will behave. We are apt in our thinking to assume that the world will continue as it is. Now, that is not necessarily a correct assumption. When we think about the context of the socialistic society, we should give some framework to our thinking, but we should immediately come down to specific things. How are we to raise the standard of living of our people as rapidly as we can? How are we to approach this objective of everybody having the same opportunity, etc.? Why I say this is this: in effect, we may be thinking the same thing, but we must think in practical and not in emotional terms. There is always a tendency to get immediately into an emotional approach to the problem. Emotions are good, but then you start arguing about emotions or the emotional approach instead of practical things. Nowadays, it is patent that there can do no approach to either socialistic society to any other advanced society without certain material progress being made in India, without our production going up tremendously and being utilized rightly, without our food production going up. It is amazing how at present movement in India, the vital basic importance of agricultural production, more especially food production, is the one firm thing on which everything has to rest. But it does not mean that other things are not important. They are very important, though the other things do not come into the picture. Therefore, while we should discuss all these matters in all their aspects, we should try to come to grips with the immediate problems that we have to face. We talk about the approach to the third 5-year plan, which is very important, of course, and we have been thinking about it for about a year. Now, that approach has necessarily something to do, obviously, with the objective we aim at. But I oppose if you put down the objectives broadly, nobody here and very few people outside will disagree with their broader objectives. Stop.